Hello, this is Mizo. Science is a very demanding customer because you have a 2000-year-old theory and somebody comes with up a new theory and the whole theory is discarded. They throw away the old theory and put in the new theory. So basically science is just about the evidence. If the evidence is there, then the science will accept it. And some of the theories have been turned upside down. Theories that were valid for something like 2000 years have suddenly found themselves been thrown out and a new totally opposite to what they were saying accepted. So science is like that. Science is based on facts and evidence and the theories must fit the facts and evidence. However, religion is not like that. About 600 BCE, we had this sudden burst of religions. We don't really know what is the reason behind it, but we know that a lot of religions actually came into being in that period. Now, these religions, a religion takes about 2 to 3 centuries to solidify. Once a religion is accepted, the followers begin changing it. And then we realize that there's too much change coming on to the religion, and then they formalize the religion and they crystallize it. So it solidifies, and all religions have this. So once it solidifies, they can't change the narrative, and they stick to the narrative. And as the new evidence comes, the religion they can't change. They stick to the old narrative, and even when the old narrative becomes absurd, even then they just can't. They find some way of actually trying to get it right, or some way to harmonize things. So I'm going to take one study only, the study of the flying horse of Islam. Now, Islam is some ways a different religion than other religions, because Islam is a revealed religion. We had this Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him. He was instrumental in bringing Islam to earth. The claim is that Allah, the one and only God in Islam, he sent his archangel Gabriel, also pronounced Gabriel, and the angel came and revealed shuras. Shuras are verses of Quran to the Prophet, peace be upon him. Now, for 40 years, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, was a pagan. And when the revelations came, he became a believer and he became the first Muslim, so to say. And his sayings were not actually recorded in writing. These sayings were taken up orally by his followers, and after his death, all his sayings were put together to form the Quran. Now, the Quran was quite a dense book. So they found that it's difficult to actually understand the Quran. To understand the Quran, they had more books written, and these are called the Hadiths. The Hadiths are explanations and the background to various shuras of Quran. And there are so many Hadiths actually. It's a complicated subject. And then they had the Tafsirs. Tafsirs are derivatives from the Quran and the Hadiths. So there are arguments, basically arguments. When this became too much, then the whole thing was codified and put down, and they refused to accept any more variations in argument after that. So between the period 700 to 1000 CE, Islam solidified and no further changes were accepted. And this is the problem common to all religions and also Islam, because the knowledge of 1000 AD was sparse at the best, and there are lots of changes after that, and science says everything has changed so much, but because religion, you can't change things once it solidifies, then they hang on to the narrative. And I'm not particularly saying that this is thing with only Islam, it's with all religions, but I've taken this special case of the flying horse of Islam. And I like to remind all my viewers that this thing is common to all religions. It's not something about Islam, but this is just a case study. So we are going to have a look at the flying horse of Islam, what modern science says, and what the flying horse of Islam is not a new construct. It's not something that is actually in Islam only. We had previous to that, we had Pegasus, and then we had the Centaur, and then we had the sun god, who was pulled by flying horses. The chariot of the sun god is pulled by flying horses. So apparently the sun itself is the locomotion of the sun itself is through flying horses. So it is not a new thing. It has been picked up from old theology. Now the flying horse of Islam,
right-wing thinker with considerably modest Indian cultural values. He has never held any government post in his life, nor is he associated with any organization. All his videos are original and creative. Please enjoy.
After 1000 CE, the study of science progressed. One of them studies was the study of anatomy. Now, in the study of anatomy, people actually began dissecting animals and human beings also. And some of these dissectors, they were very, very good. They were able to trace out the whole nervous system of an animal, even human beings, and the muscle structures, the bone structures, everything they were able to trace out. And immediately we found out that all the animals have a similar systems. All the systems are actually quite similar to each other. And even human beings, our bone structures and muscle structures are similar. Now the thing is, there is a given set of bones, and these bones are set to different uses. The functions of the bone might be different, but the system of the bones are actually common to nearly all animals. Of course, some of the bones might fuse together and some become smaller and larger, whatever, but the bones are still there. And the foldings of a horse, the wings of a bat, the wings of a bird, and our own hands, they have the same set of muscles and bones. And this means that actually it's a part of evolution, but we didn't realize it that time. It actually took a long time for us to realize that this is due to evolution. But that is there, and this creates the first problem in this horse narrative. The problem being, there aren't any bones to actually have a wing or even muscles. But even if you give them that, it doesn't really solve anything. So I shall see the other parts of this video to understand that. In the meantime, it is interesting to note that the folding of a horse, the four limbs of a horse, our hands, the wings of the bats and the birds are. Now we're taking a look at the story itself. Now the story goes something like this: that there was the Prophet, peace be upon him, one day early in the morning he called his followers over and revealed a shura. Now this shura is the flying horse shura, and it's actually very important in the theology of Islam for various reasons. Now the narrative is that there was this flying horse, sometimes it's called a donkey even. There is flying horse or donkey, we'll call it a horse. Now a flying horse in which the Prophet, peace be upon him, went from there to the furthest mosque, and from the furthest mosque he went to the seven heavens, went up and down a couple times and returned, all in one night. So, and then he came back with him with a lot of new revelations. He claimed to have actually faced Allah face to face in that. The important thing here is that his claim was that he couldn't, all the other prophets that were before him, Islam has got so many other prophets actually. They acknowledge even Moses as a prophet and other prophets. So even Adam is considered a prophet. So these prophets accepted his supremacy. So all the old prophets before Muhammad, peace be upon him, accepted his supremacy, and his word was supposed to be the final word. The revelations that Allah gave to him was the final revelation and the true revelations, and the other prophets are considered subsequent to him, and that makes Islam supreme. And this is very important to Islamic theology. Even if you give them the muscles and the wing, extra set of bones, etc., there is the problem of the weight. Now, a horse with a adult male will weigh around about 400 kilograms, give or take. This is a huge amount of weight for something to fly. It is we don't know any animals that heavy that can fly, and this creates its own problem. So the second problem is the weight of the horse. The horse being 400 kilos, is the size of the wings now. Now, being all the birds that actually fly, they have a wing ratio. The area of the wing and the weight of the bird is 1:1 is the 1:1 to 1:20 is the norm. 1:25 is the upper limit. Now once you come to 1:25, that means 21 square meter of wing area will actually hold on to 25 kilos of weight. But this is extreme. Even if you give that to the horse, that means because the horse doesn't have place for the wings to be fitted onto the horse, the wing can be at the maximum 1 meter wide. This makes a wing that is 50 feet end to end. So wingspan becomes 50 feet end to end for the horse to fly. This is a huge wing. So the wing by itself carries a weight penalty of about 400 kilos, because the wing by itself is not enough. You got to have also the muscles to power the wings. So the muscles and the wings and the bones, everything together is about 200 kilos. That gives us 600 kilo horse now, and 600 kilo horse means you got to have a wingspan of 75 kilos. This is a big problem. Now obviously this is not understood in those days. Actually the bird flight has been now very recently, actually these research is done very recently, because now you got very fast cameras and all those things to actually research bird flight. You can't research bird flight with ordinary eyesight, because it's too fast for the eye to record. So a 75 feet wingspan, does it solve the problem? Actually you run into more problems now. The problem now is to energize this flight. Now obviously the digestive system and the circular system of horse is very good, but if you want something that is weighing about 700 kilos flying, you need a huge amount of energy, and not only you need huge amount of energy, you need a huge amount of oxygen to power the horse. This means that the lungs and the digestive system has got to be huge, and really huge. So now you have a horse that is close to 1,000 kilos. The lungs will have to increase in capacity by 4 to 5 times, and so the digestive system also has got to be increased by that amount. And the rib cage has got to be, you see, you got a wing span of 75 feet. A small rib cage cannot give the proper leverage to it. See, leverage is also a thing that we understand much more later after 1000 AD.
CE. So, you need a huge amount of body weight. So actually the body weight is around about 1,000 kilos now, and 1,000 kilos plus a huge circulatory system and a huge digestive system to provide the energy. This is way beyond comprehension. Even if the horse has got the wings, it's got the digestive system, it's got the body, it's got the muscles, it's got the skeleton, everything, there is still another huge problem, because wings cannot fly. Now, this is a discovery that is about 200 years old. Eventually, the Wright brothers cracked it. For some system to fly, control is more important, just as important as the weight and the strength and the stuff like that. So, the flying horse to fly also must have a tail. Now, the tail must have actually leverage. You can't have a small tail. The horse of the tail is just hair, and hair is insufficient to actually control the. You don't have a aerodynamic surface, so you need a proper tail, and the tail should be at least 10 to 20 feet behind the wing to get the proper leverage, as the Wright brothers found out. So this is absolutely new knowledge. We didn't know about these things. This thing is about 1890, 1900. We finally, even then we probably didn't know. When the Wright brothers actually began flying the aeroplane, then we understood that you should have a variable wing geometry. Wing geometry is okay, it's variable, but you should also have a wing, a tail of variable geometry to control the aircraft. Otherwise, if you even have a fixed tail, as the plane takes up, it just crashes. Or even if it's flying in the air without the tail, it will crash. So you require a tail, and the tail should be at least 10 to 20 feet behind the wing. So now you got a horse that is 10 to 20 feet long, and with a tail which is aerodynamic and got control surfaces, and then you have a wing that is maybe now is got to be 150 feet because the body now is that big, and as a ridiculous situation, because no bone can actually stand the amount of force now that's on it. The muscles will have to act on the because now you got a 1,000 kilo horse, so you have muscles exerting 1,000 kilos of power on the wings of the bone wings, and no bone can actually withstand that. It simply crack and break. And these things are reality. How do you know these things? Because after studying evolution, we find that these things actually happen when humans were evolving or other animals were evolving. So as animals evolve, the skeleton has got to change to take into account the new forces. So having a wing of 150 feet and having a body that is 1,000 kilos in weight does not solve the problem, because the bone will start breaking. But even if you give all of them, this is the problem of the feet of the horse. The feet of the horse is excellent if and when it weighs 300 or 400 kilos. That's no problem there. But now if you got a horse that is weighing 1,000 kilos with all the wings and all the digestive system and all the tail things going on, the feet is insufficient to actually withstand the pressure. Also, such systems require takeoff distances and landing distances. So these put on extraordinary pressure on what you land on. And as aircraft designers have found out that you got to design your stuff according to the specifications if you want to have a successful aircraft. A lot of aircraft actually had problems with their undercarriage. So this is thing absolutely new. We didn't know about that time. Even the Wright brothers actually hadn't solved this problem. This problem is solved much later on. In fact, even now we have undercarriage failures, but obviously much reduced. So the horse has got to have legs that can actually have to run up, and not only take the weight of 1,000 kilos, but actually run up a great distance and at a great speed so that the system can take off. There is this further problem about the flying muscles of the horse. Now the flying muscles of a bird is about 30% of the body weight. The skeleton of a bird is only 5%. The body weight of a bird is basically in its flight muscles. The flight muscles has got 30%. That is 1,000 kilo horse will have to have 300 kilos of flight muscles. So, which is a huge amount. Once the horse lands, the muscles are not going to disappear. 300 kilos of muscles is an unimaginable amount. I think the maximum muscle we got in our body will weigh about just 700 grams, which is just a fraction of this. So I don't think there ever was a muscle that was that big. So there is a problem with the muscle now. And 1,000 kilo horse actually can't fly because the muscles won't be there. You require a horse that is at least 1,500 kilos. So that about 500 kilos is muscle and 1,000 kilos is the rest of the body. So this is another big problem with that. But suppose we give everything, like all the skeleton, the bones and the size and the tail and everything, you give it everything. There is still problems to overcome. It is not. This is the problem of distance, speed and time. Now distance, speed and time is a very new concept. Actually it comes probably with the railways. Before that we didn't really understand these concepts. So the distance, the furthest mosque was later on defined as a mosque in Jerusalem. This mosque is still existing, by the way. It is very much there. Now the distance between Mecca to Jerusalem, where the flight took place, is about 1200 kilometers, and that means up and down is 2400 kilometers. The maximum speed a bat or a bird can fly level is around about 150 kilometers an hour. That is the maximum speed they can fly. But even if they give 200 kilometers an hour to cover that distance of 2400 kilometers, it will take 10 hours of flight, 12 hours of flight actually. So the time is in there. So because people, the Prophet peace be upon him, went to bed at night and got up early in the morning. The 12 hours time is in there. So this concept of distance, time and speed was absent that time. Of course today we take it for granted, but in those days we didn't really know these things, and that's why this terrible mistake happens. So the concept of speed, distance and time goes to show that it is not possible. See, even at 200 kilometers an hour, the wind resistance on the wing, which is now 150 feet, will be tremendous. It will just rip the wing apart. This is something we found out in the jet age, 1950. Previous to that, it was not much of a problem. But 1950, we found out the wing strength also counts. So, to have such a big wingspan going at 200 kilometers an hour, you require actually metal. You can't do it with bones and muscles. But even if you give all that and everything, all the objections I've raised now, there are still more objections. Guys, there are still more objections. We are now running into the biggest problem of them all. The biggest problem of them all is location of heaven. Now, this is very interesting. Suppose we do have a horse and we do have that wing and we do have that digestive system, we do have the skeleton, we got the muscles and we got everything going. The location of of heaven. Now, the horse is supposed to have gone to Jerusalem or maybe any place in the world, whatever. But there is a limitation to the height of the horse flying. The limitation of birds flying is about 10 kilometers above sea level. That's the limitation. Birds have been known to fly at that height, we know that. But 10 kilometers above earth level and flying at 200 kilometers an hour, if there is no protection, then a human being will simply freeze to death. And if you have a look at World War One pilots, which their fashionable looking pants and jackets and goggles and all, so fashionable looking. Actually, it wasn't fashion. Those people were forced to wear that because they used to go in these heights and feel the cold. This is an illustration you can see right now. So, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he was supposed to be just a messenger of God. Now, if he's just a messenger of God, then he can't have the powers to fly at 10 kilometers and actually at 12 kilometers an hour and survive. That is not going to happen. But even if we give that, there is no heaven at 10 kilometers distance from the earth. We know that because the atmosphere has been thoroughly, we have gone through everything, at least around the area of Jerusalem, we know everything that is to be known about the atmosphere. So this is a big problem with this narrative. Leave alone, even forget about say 10 kilometers, even talking about 10 million kilometers, there is nothing out there. There is no heaven, even 10, even 7 heavens, there is nothing like that in this range. We are talking about a huge range now. A human and a horse can't fly above 10 kilometers. So we can't have a system that is 10 kilometers, where is a heaven. See, in those days that is okay, I guess, because even 10 kilometers, 5 kilometers in the air, 10 kilometers in the air was an abnormal thing, it was beyond comprehension. But now we are doing it routinely.
So
and we know
ultimately,
that
what I can only say that these things are belief, and there is no problem there. You believe in a religion, you believe in all the narratives of the religion. Absolutely no problem there. But you should not argue science in that. This is Mizo signing off. Thanks for listening, guys.